Hi everyone, I'm Ria. Welcome back to our journey of learning music. Today we're continuing with Schoenberg's theory of harmony, and this is episode 4 of the series. Last time, we talked about the diatonic chords in the major scale and how to write them in four-part harmony. If you don't quite remember that, I strongly recommend watching the previous episode first. It'll really help you understand what we're doing today. In this episode, we'll try connecting different diatonic chords in four-part writing. Before we start, here are two things to keep in mind. First, we're not going to include the seventh chord built on the 7th-scale degree just yet because it's a diminished triad and needs special treatment. We'll get to that later. Second, we want to avoid voice crossing. That means a lower voice shouldn't go higher than a higher voice. Sounds obvious, but it's an easy mistake to make when you're starting out. To minimize errors, I have two handy tips for you when connecting chords. First, only connect chords that share common tones. Here's an easy rule of thumb. Aside from the chords that are right next to each other in the scale, most chords will share one or two notes. Second, try to keep each voice's movement as small as possible. The bass is an exception because for now we're always placing the root in the bass, and that might involve some jumping around. But the other three voices should stay as smooth and stepwise as they can. Alright, let's look at an example. The image above shows a connection between the 1st-degree chord and the 3rd-degree chord. As a beginner, I recommend following 3 steps when connecting chords. Step 1. Decide what note goes in the bass. Since we've only learned root position chords so far, it's simple. We just put the root of the chord in the bass. So for the 1 chord, it's C, and for the 3 chord, it's E. Done. Some of you might confuse the concept of bass and root. Quick clarification. Bass is a voice concept. It's the lowest of the 4 voices. Root, on the other hand, is a chord concept. It's the fundamental note of a chord in root position. Good. Step 2. Find the common tones. The 1 chord has C, G. The 3 chord has E, G, B. So they share E and G. Place those two in any of the upper 3 voices and keep them there across the chord change. Last step. What notes are left? For the 1 chord, we still need another C. For the 3 chord, we need A, B. Place those in the remaining voice, and boom, you've got a clean connection. Now, let's listen to a few examples. They'll show all the possible ways to connect the 1 chord. Once you're comfortable connecting 2 chords, you can start building short phrases using multiple chords. Since we're currently working with just 6 diatonic triads, aim for 4 to 6 chords per phrase. Also, always begin and end your phrase with a tonic chord so the tonality feels stable. One more tip, try to pack in as much variety as you can. Besides starting and ending on the tonic, try not to repeat any other chords. Keep things fresh. Let's check out 3 sample phrases. Now, even though we haven't been too strict about bass motion, it's still the most prominent outer voice, so we should follow a few basic suggestions to avoid clunky writing. First, try to avoid consecutive motion that leads to dissonant intervals, like 7ths or 9ths. The better option is to adjust 1 or 2 voices, so you get contrary motion instead. Let's listen to an example. Yep, the contrary motion sounds much smoother, while the consecutive dissonance feels kind of jarring. Second tip. No voice should leap more than a 5th. Octaves are fine, of course. They're naturally consonant. 7ths are obviously dissonant, so they're out. But what about 6ths? They're not used much either, mainly because they sound kind of odd and unfamiliar, and they can easily lead to rule-breaking moments. We'll talk more about that in the future. Let's now listen to some examples where the bass leaps a 6th. Alright, that's it for this episode of Theory of Harmony. You'll need some time to practice and absorb this content, so feel free to try it out in other major keys too. Also, I'll be posting some music appreciation videos on classic pieces if you'd like to relax and enjoy some great music while learning. I'm Ria. If you want to learn composition and harmony theory systematically, feel free to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.